Dawn Ledet is a seasoned life and business coach, host of the Self Trust Solution podcast, and author of Master Your Inner Dialogue. As the creator of Self Trust Lab, home of the proven 3E success method, Dawn helps individuals cultivate self trust to set and achieve their most meaningful goals. With over 20 years of leadership experience and more than 6,000 coaching sessions, Dawn has guided countless individuals to break free from self doubt, procrastination, and perfectionism. I know we all can relate to that. Her work emphasizes transforming self talk, overcoming obstacles, and building a mindset of achievement that fosters both personal and professional success. Dawn's mission is to empower others to unlock the transformative power of self trust, creating lives filled with clarity, confidence, and fulfillment. Dawn, I'm so grateful to have you on. How are you today?
It's such an honor to be here. I'm so grateful to be here with you. I'm doing great, more so because I'm here with you.
Oh, well, thanks for saying that. I really am excited for this conversation. You and I share a lot of things in common. And the number one thing I've noticed with clients, and we were chatting about this briefly, is the inner dialogue we have with ourselves. We're kind of mean to ourselves. Why do you think that has happened?
It happens for many different reasons, right? And some of it's so innocent. Like we can turn the simple desire to do better into I'm not doing enough. It's just these tiny tweaks that we can shift to. I talk about in Master Your Inner Dialogue that our thoughts often have origins. Well, they always have origins, but they can come from other people's voices, how we grew up, not by any kind of malintent. It's often very innocent, protective ways in some ways. Some of us do have voices from our past that are really terrible, but we have a mix of both often. Then it comes from rules we've developed and our own idea of what we needed to tell ourselves to keep us safe
Mm,
and to propel us forward. One way to think about this, though, that I love to invite listeners to is that inner dialogue doesn't have a tone. It actually can't be mean, but we assign that tone based on that origin and then the lens through which we're seeing our lives, ourselves, and our situations.
mhm.
And so, if that's my one gift that I want to always give to everyone and spread it because it's so useful. If we start to just pay attention, what tone am I assigning to this inner dialogue? And what if I didn't? What if instead of hearing it as a judge, a critic, a bully, I started to hear it with no tone at all? You don't have to automatically make "you're doing this wrong" sound like, "Yay, you're doing this wrong." It's going to work. But if you remove the tone, when you hear "you're doing this wrong" as a judge, you're either going to believe it or you're going to push against it. But if
Mhm.
you hear, "Hey, like you're doing this wrong," it's just kind of neutral. You're going to be like, "Wait, what am I doing wrong? Wait,
Well,
let me
and
look at this."
yeah, and I think about our relationships we have with other people. And when another individual has a tone that kind of either irks us or we get upset about, then we completely turn on the inside, right? We have all this built up tension, this anxiety that happens, walking on eggshells. So if we have that tone with ourselves, we're going to start to be fearful and to walk on eggshells with our own beings.
100%. It creates more disconnect. And what we need more than anything is connection and a united front towards our lives. Because when we're battling internally, we're not using that really amazing energy, all that great fuel to actually move forward towards the lives we want.
Why do you think there is such a need for perfectionism? Because I feel perfectionism gets in the way of us moving forward to better inner dialogue, better awareness with ourselves and the people around us.
It can. Perfectionism is another label that I always invite people to use carefully.
Mm.
Because when we label it as perfectionism, we act as if, yep, that's who I am and it's a problem. And then we don't try and solve it. It's not solution focused for sure, because you're not connecting to yourself. So I want to use it as choice. Choice is our most powerful asset. So if and just listen and think about this for yourself. If I say, I'm a perfectionist and that's why this isn't done, versus I choose to always see if I can improve something. And sometimes that means it takes me longer, and sometimes it means it doesn't. But I know it's my choice. And if it's taking too long, I can decide maybe I don't need it to be perfect, or I can change my definition of what perfect is to
Mm.
align with where I am right now.
Was there a time ever in your life that you felt you had labeled yourself a perfectionist?
Oh, all the labels. That's why I'm so passionate about it. I labeled everything. I was both a perfectionist and a high achiever, which we can use that and think it sounds amazing. It's actually the same with perfectionism. It's like the number one answer to what is your biggest flaw in an interview in corporate. People say perfectionism because it's
Yep.
actually something that they think sounds good. But if we're using, and it's fine, like truly the other piece of this is that it's not a problem to be a perfectionist if you're not using it as an obstacle to achieving what you want.
Mm.
So I was a perfectionist and all these other labels that I called myself, but perfectionism for me was in time, like using the more time I spent, the more effort I put in, then the better I was, the better I could be. But it was always chasing it. And look, we all know there's only so much time and there's only so much effort.
Yep.
And that's how we lead to burnout. So tuning into choice is what really changed it for me. I had a big wake up call one day and realized I'll share. I actually sold my car to force myself to walk 2 miles to work and 2 miles back from work, because that was the only way I was gonna be able to work normal hours, get to work at a decent time, leave work at a decent time, and move my body because I was just always working. And I thought I was brilliant. I'm like, "That's a great idea." And during one of those walks, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Why am I having to force myself to do? And it was an avalanche flooded in of all the ways self-trust was missing in my life up until that point.
Now, did you have to, once you figured it out, that aha moment, did you have to either journal or go through the paces, whether that's with therapy or whatnot, and kind of identify why or where the distrust of yourself came from?
I paid a lot of attention to that latter when I realized, like, this is something that I have to help people with. And that's when I went and got certified as a life coach and really wrote the book and really started to put this into practice, first with
Mhm.
myself and then with clients. But my first process, which I think is really useful, sometimes we can dig into our past and that's useful. Sometimes it becomes just another obstacle to move forward.
Totally.
So we want to make sure that we're incorporating that awareness in a way that actually supports us and isn't looking for blame. Like, why am I like this? Why don't I have this self trust? Often leads to us looking for what's wrong with us. Nothing was wrong with me. Nothing is wrong with you or any of the listeners. I just hadn't recognized that self trust was missing and that it was an option to be built. And when I discovered that, that's what I focused on first.
So, for people that you have worked with, What have you found is the greatest misunderstanding of what self-trust truly means?
Most of my clients come in thinking that self-trust is doing everything you say you're going to do, which is another perfectionist mindset, by the way. Like, because I didn't do this thing, then I can't trust myself. And then, boy, can you give me tons of evidence? And they like to. It's a
Yeah.
laundry list of all the ways, and here's why I can't trust myself. And it's good to get that out. But our brains love to prove us right. It's just so good at providing evidence for whatever we give it. And when you're telling yourself that I can't trust myself, that's the first place we have to start. Because the truth is, there are many things you do every day, all day that prove that you are trustworthy. So we just have to connect to those things and not stay focused on all the case building evidence of why you're not trustworthy.
Yeah, I'm honestly thinking of people that are listening or watching this and being like, well, that's great. Like, I do trust myself to some extent, but I don't know what to look out for that I'm not trusting myself fully.
Sure. Yeah. So, what we normally see, but I know people are coming to me that have big goals, right? They're entrepreneurs, they're business leaders. This matters though in every part of your life. That's just where I focus because the three things it takes to achieve anything both builds self trust and highlight areas where it's lacking. And
Mhm.
so it's just a great space. I love it because it not only creates more connection for yourself, grows your self trust that's going to have a ripple effect throughout your whole life, but also while getting something you want, achieving a goal you want, which is impacting other people as well. So it's just the compounding effect of that. But the things to look for are, where am I second guessing my decisions? Where am I replaying conversations over and over again? Where am I delaying decisions, postponing decisions, deciding on strategies or action plans and not following through? Where am I taking results of actions or goals and not having my back on them? Where am I not using data to evaluate for growth and instead am using drama and judgment to beat myself up?
Totally. That happens often. And being an entrepreneur, I definitely have felt all those things at one point in time. These are normal too. I think so often we put ourselves in this box and we're too afraid to break out of it because it's easier to just stay in our little box or little area of expertise. And then like you were saying, we give those excuses or we tell everyone what's wrong with us versus what's the strength of yours? Like, how
Mm.
can we celebrate this part of you so that you can make that attainable as a
Yeah.
goal?
Celebration is a huge piece, but I offer that it's not more comfortable to stay safe and stay sane. The truth is, there's discomfort either way. There's the discomfort of growth because everything we want is on the other side of discomfort. You can't do new things. You can't reach for big goals. You can't achieve dreams without discomfort. But staying the same is uncomfortable too, because
Yeah.
that's when we get into regret and second guessing. What if I should have done this? What if I should have done that?
Mhm.
What could be different for me that's not? They're both uncomfortable. So I always say it's a choice. Do I want the discomfort of staying the same or do I want the discomfort of growth? And you're right. We all exercise all of these things, these doubts and these insecurities and these fear. They're totally normal. I will say it again, there's nothing to fix about you. And you can achieve lots with very little self trust. It's just more painful and
Yeah,
takes longer.
totally. And breaking these habits of the harmful inner self dialogue.
Mm.
What made you decide to write a book? Because it can be not only challenging to make time for it, but it's a part of you. And there is that critical eye that like wants you to make sure it is perfect so it lasts years and years down the line. But you also have to be present to what's going on in your life currently.
Sure. I maybe overcorrected on the perfectionist tendencies. I really have adopted over the last 6 years of my work doing this that progress is better than perfection. I just want to create more momentum for myself because the more momentum I create for myself, the more that I do things, even if it's B minus work, the more that I can celebrate and learn from myself because it's everything gives you data. Not doing anything and waiting to get it perfect gives you no data. But
True.
just doing it and getting it out there, you learn. And yes, there's some painful lessons. And I think it's so worth it.
How can we, instead of beating ourselves down for those painful lessons, keep our head above water and try and, I don't want to say celebrate again, but express gratitude that we did the damn thing?
100%. That's your answer right there. Celebration is so important. One of the key things that I walk through in the book and in the Self Trust Lab is evaluation and celebration. They are crucial. They're not just nice things to have. And so often we delay the celebration until the goal is done.
Yeah.
And really, it's fuel to keep going in the process of your goal. So we want to set up regular points of evaluation and celebration. What's working? Always start with what's working. What am I doing great? What am I so proud of? I also have a fun tool I'll invite your listeners if they want to partake. Create an I'm so impressed list. Keep it on your phone or in a Google Doc where you can get to it on your phone, where you can get to it on your computer, on your iPad, wherever you are, and just add everything. I'm so impressed that I didn't snap at the lady in the grocery store line. I'm so impressed that I learned that new skill. I'm so impressed that I did this thing, even though I was so embarrassed and it was hard. Whatever it is, add to it. It is such a great tool for motivation, for championing yourself forward. It's a gift.
Mm.
And the beauty of it is if you start it, don't make it another thing on your to-do list. Start it with one thing if you want and just add to it periodically. What's beautiful about it is when you go back to add something, you're going to see whatever you wrote before. So you're constantly connecting to how impressive you are.
How impressive you are. I love that. So great. What would you say is a highlight from your career thus far with, whether that's creating the self trust lab or your clients or testimonials? What's been a highlight for you?
Absolutely. Always client results. Just when you can see that shift between the doubt and the believing, like knowing that your goal is available for you, but not really owning that and not taking action from that space. And that transformation always chokes me up and just makes me so grateful that I get to do this work. I'm so grateful for that day where I was walking to work and realized that I needed self trust. I hope everyone hears that as there's something you're going to recognize about yourself, and it's going to be so useful for more people than just you. So embrace it, be proud of it, even when it seems like it's not a good thing,
Yeah.
and really be open to all the ways that you can impact others with it.
John, I used to be a fitness professional, and I always tell people that I was the most unhealthy fitness professional ever because I played piano late nights at a bar and I would do a show with the bartender and then have to train my clients at 6 a.m. And I noticed so much that I would trust myself to wake up but I didn't trust myself to slow down when I knew I needed to so that I could be at peak performance in the morning. And I know we did discuss kind of how people beat themselves down and then they put themselves 5 steps back to making progress, and I love the idea of writing down, like, what you're impressed about, but what's one small step a person can do each day that, let's say they had a setback and they need to take action, they wanna take action that moment, that morning, if they had a bad day or a bad evening the night before.
Well, I would reframe, like, even what you just shared, like, so impressed that you were able to do this. Really seeing it, instead of seeing it as something that you did wrong, be proud that that's something you were capable of doing and then recognized it didn't work for you and then made a change. That's
Yeah,
huge.
yeah.
So one is shifting our perspective on things. It doesn't mean, again, I'm never going to condone rainbows and daisies and lying to yourself. All that does is create more disconnect. But do be open to see both sides of it. What if I didn't just look at this as a problem? How is this maybe a strength? Or how is this proof that I'm resilient? I'm capable? That's one piece for sure. And then also remembering if you mess up one day, the mess up is enough. We don't have to punish ourselves over and over again to learn from it.
Mm.
Just pick up and start again. You're not even starting over. You're actually starting fresh with new wisdom and new knowledge and new experience, even if that experience was not finishing what you started. That's data that can support you. What about it didn't work? If we don't move to judgment, we can learn. Was it that I set it at the wrong time of day? Would it work better if I broke it up into several smaller blocks of time? What if I spread it out? Whatever it is for you, if you explore with the idea of learning from yourself for yourself instead of the judgment, it's a win.
So true. Just reflecting and not I know this because I have a lot of clients that do this too. They just beat themselves to the pulp, and by the time they're done, I'm like, "Are you ready to find the positive in these moments?" Without, like you said, the unicorns and rainbows, like, really just find what you learned from it, those painful moments, but also how strong you were because you've recognized you don't wanna do that anymore.
Yes. It's like, what if you just didn't?
Mhm.
Here's the truth. It's a hard truth, but it's a choice to beat yourself up. And you can choose differently. Just like any habit, it takes practice. So I always invite to just name it as choice. Like, oh, I'm choosing to beat myself up again.
Mm.
You don't even have to change it. By the way, you can put beating yourself up on the shelf and you can pick it back up anytime you want. It's not going to go anywhere. It's literally there
Mhm.
for you always. But if you just decide, like, call it out, I'm choosing to beat myself up again with no judgment, just, oh, it's interesting. Eventually, you're going to catch it while you're doing it. Because those are
Mm.
the moments you catch it after the fact. You'll start to catch it while you're doing, you'll still do it. You'll be like, huh, I'm beating myself up again. And then you'll start recognizing it as choice because when you call it a choice, it's more it's you're more able to change it. When we define ourselves as I judge myself, I beat up, I'm hard on myself, all of that, it's hard to change. But when we call it out as a choice, when you're ready, you don't have to be ready right now. You'll change it.
Self-compassion, I feel, goes hand in hand with that self-trust piece. Is that something that you've noticed is very difficult for people, is to have self-compassion, if or is it used separate?
It depends on the rules. We all operate by rules that either were set for us, we adopted, or we created. And if we have set a rule that, like, have to push myself forward, compassion seems opposite of that. It seems like it conflicts with that rule. So Oftentimes, I'm dismantling rules. I mean, I'm not doing it, but I'm inviting my clients to visit. What are the rules I'm operating by? Do they still apply? Because they're rules that were really useful back when you were in college, and they're just not so useful anymore.
Mm.
And we can rewrite it. And so, really visiting that and seeing what is the opposite. What am I thinking self compassion risk? If I am compassionate with myself, what is the downside of that? Tell me more about that. And if you can get to some of those rules, what's happening behind that, why they think it's risky, why it's not a good idea to be compassionate, it can just start that conversation to see.
And is it also what you were talking about with the data? Is this more like another data piece for you? Okay.
Yeah, data is important. Like we love learning. We're literally wired to want to learn, right? We love to learn. And I'm just inviting you to tune in and learn from your greatest source, and that's yourself. So often we're listening to the noise. I call it the lobby noise. I spend a lot of time in the lobby. We all do. And the lobby noise is filled with other people's voices, our mentors, experts we admire, our parents, the bully from school and grade school. Like it's full of our own doubts and insecurities, our own moments of pride. Actually, there's lots in that lobby, but boy, it's loud, right?
Right.
And every now and then, I just want you to go through the door into the room. And that's where your wisdom and your intuition lie. You're going to be able to go into that lobby anytime you want. You are going to spend a lot of time. It's not a problem. But go through the door here and there. Spend some time in silence listening to your inner voice. Because I promise you, that voice isn't telling you how terrible you are. It isn't telling you that you're not enough. It's not telling you you're a failure. It's connecting to who you're meant to be, who you are, all that you've accomplished, what you're capable of. That's where goals and dreams come from, is that room. When you set the goal, you consulted that person, that version of you, because it came with belief. It's when we start moving towards the goal that the lobby noise really starts taking over. And so we just have to remind ourselves to walk through that door here and there.
What opportunities are you currently seeking for yourself right now? You've written a book, you have an awesome podcast, you're a creator of the Self Trust Lab. Like, what's the next opportunity or next thing you're looking forward to?
Oh, that's a great question. I will write another book. Master Your Inner Dialogue is more like a guide. It's a very short read. I recommend it's like 60 pages. I think it's very short and it operates as more of a guide, how you can start to master your inner dialogue, how you can start to create connection. And so I would like to write one that has more stories and examples and, gets a little bit more personal, it's less pragmatic and more story, I think. True story, but story.
True story. Love it. So, this is going to get a little more personal. I always love to ask this to guests because stress affects us in different ways. So, how has stress saved your life?
How has stress saved my life? I would say just in creating this big shift, like knowing I was an executive in the hospitality industry, ran sales and marketing teams for 2 decades. And so stress was an everyday, all day component, but it was a different kind of stress. That stress probably almost killed me. It definitely led me to taking some extreme measures, right?
Right.
The stress, though, of shifting, completely leaving everything I'd know, not know I had no idea what I was gonna do, and just knowing I needed to help people, I didn't know what it meant, I didn't even know that I was gonna be a coach. That stress, though, invigorated me,
Mm.
if that makes sense. So I really do think there's different kinds of stress, just like there's different kinds of tired. There's the tired of exhaustion that is fruitless. And then there's that satisfying tired of like, I did something amazing. Like I just worked myself to the bone and I'm so proud. This was the same for me with this kind of stress.
Love that. How can people connect with you?
They can find me at the selftrustcoach.com is probably the best place, and all my socials are there. And I'd love if anyone is noticing, if they're starting to recognize how much their inner dialogue affects your ability to follow through or trust yourself. You can get the book there on the site, or I have this great 7-day self-trust boost. So if you just want to know, like, how can I start connecting to my self-trust? Because yes, you have it, even if you're telling yourself you don't. And for those of you who know you do, but you do recognize some of those symptoms, if you will, of a lack of self-trust, look, that's where I was. There are many of us that are high achieving, like, not having trust. And so it's less about, again, we're not trying to find something wrong with ourselves. It's just how can I optimize on what I already have, on my awesomeness? And so go and join the Self Trust Boost series. And it's just a 7-day email series, real easy, quick, every day, less than 5-minute exercise to reconnect you to your self trust and to start growing it in a way that can support you.
Incredible. Dawn, I can't wait to hear everyone's takeaways. This was so wonderful. I love when people are informative, to the point, share, and it was just very delightful interviewing you. So thank you so much for coming in today.
Oh my gosh, it was such an honor and pleasure. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
you're welcome. And you guys know you got to share those takeaways with me so I know that I can bring more guests like Dawn in to our circle. And also, we got to remind ourselves the most important thing to speak well to ourselves on this self love journey. Until next time, take care.